Welcome to Tips, the Townsend Institute podcast series, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University Irvine. This podcast shares stories of leadership, coaching, and counseling experiences that have shaped the lives and careers of our guests, who then provide tips aimed toward helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Dr. Ashlie Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Puget.
All right, everyone, welcome back to a very special episode of the Townsend Institute podcast series. It's our one-year anniversary. So we are joined here with Dr. Townsend himself. Who else to help commemorate the one-year anniversary of TIPS? Welcome back, John. How you doing? And congratulations on this milestone.
And congratulations to you guys, too. When we hit the market, we didn't know what it would be like. And we found the responses and the people that it's helping and all that to be wonderful. So we're celebrating as we move into our sophomore year.
Our sophomore year. Man, it sounds good to say that. That's for sure.
And we're not going to hit the sophomore slump either, right? We're staying away from that. We are going to keep rising. So yes.
We are. We're training up. We're going to spend a little bit of time here today on milestones. When we talk about milestones, we of course think about things like anniversaries, birthdays. Why are milestones like these important to celebrate, John?
Well, actually, it has to do with the brain, as many things do, is the way that our brain works. And there's a lot of information coming at us in all time. I mean, TikTok and Instagram sort of take a lot of time. And so we're inundated with data, Ashlie. And the thing is, then the brain has a hard time prioritizing what things are important. And that's why there are things that you have to say, this is important to it. And that's what a milestone is. Now, if you look in the Bible, when Moses in Exodus was taking the Israelites over the Red Sea, and they successfully had this miracle happen, and they're reserved, then God says, okay, put up a bunch of memory stones up, rocks on top of each other, so you will never forget this. It was already in the plan that we'd be forgetful people. Give an example. Barbie and my son, Benny, got married to a wonderful gal named Lily last year. And one of the things I told him in my unasked for parent advice, which I tell people never to do with your adult children, and I did it, I said, I remember when we got married, Barbie and I got married, I don't remember hardly anything about it because it was just a jam, and I was trying to say hi to everybody. Glad there were pictures. And I said to him, y'all do it better than I did. So what I would suggest on a mental level, so when something significant happens, something you see or or somebody you're talking to or some event or whatever, pretend like your eye is a camera and just stop and click it. Wait like 3 seconds and take it in. If you say to yourself, this is important, you've kind of labeled it, and then you'll come away with not only with great pictures, but with great actual memories. And I said, I would just suggest that. And I talked to him about it after. He said, Dad, the memories of my wedding were much more vivid than I thought they'd be. That's why milestones are important. That's why this milestone is important for the podcast, because we always want to remember the lessons learned and the great things that happen, because they will stay in our head, but they will also train us to make better decisions on what we're doing in the future. They plan for our future. So I can't overemphasize how important it is to have milestones.
That's great. To have milestones, to recognize them and celebrate them and learn from them. That's
and
awesome.
Sometimes there's milestones to, say that was a bad thing. I'll never happen again. I mean, we never want 9/11 to happen again, but that's a milestone. It's very important that we don't forget those lessons learned either. So it's kind of whether it's a great thing and pop the cork, or that was hard to get through and we're sad. Remember them and you make better decisions. And this is for leaders, and it's for students, and it's for counselors and coaches. We all need to be continually making better decisions over time. People tell me, well, will I ever get to the point where I'll pretty much not have struggles? And I'll say, no, that's not the point. As a leader or counselor or coach, your job is not to not have these problems, but to have problems at a higher level every year, where you are higher functioning and higher performing because you're learning lessons. If you have to make the same mistakes over and over again, something's wrong. You want to make mistakes at a higher level, and milestones help us with that.
You're talking about being present at these big milestones and remembering them. And so, in all your years of counseling and consulting and coaching, are there certain milestones that are the most important or more influential to the success of a relationship or an organization?
In my life and history in my head?
Yeah. What comes to your mind?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the different seasons of work and types of work I did. Henry Cloud and I don't know how many people know this, but we wrote a ton of books together and all this, and we started off as grad students as apartment mates. And so I remember very clearly when we were sitting together trying to figure out how to make people grow and heal and what science says about it and what the Bible says about it. I have very clear memories of those. That was a milestone for me, was that sort of primordial soup of us two students trying to figure out life. And then if we're talking personally, then of course, my marriage to Barbie, our two sons, Ricky and Benny, were just huge. Joined the church we are in. They've been in for 30 some years. That was a big thing. And then it was the first book, Hiding from Love. And then we wrote Boundaries together. And then our work running Christian psychiatric health system for many years and learning the lessons we learned about what makes people grow. And then, starting Townsend Leadership Program and speaking a lot. And then, goodness gracious, thing called Townsend Institute, which was a dream.
Yeah.
And then when that happened, so I kind of think of the milestones that matter to me in terms of what activity was going on and what what the cascade of that was in terms of impact.
I think it's really powerful as you talk about how God weaved and worked through all of those to kind of make each opportunity. And sometimes it didn't go the way you wanted, right? I know with the psychiatric hospitals that ended, right? And then you and Henry reinvented yourself and did some other things together. So
yeah, I mean, a good lesson there for all of us in our listening audience is when you think about, we all have a strategic path and we all have a vision, mission. We're meant for mission and purpose and all that in a path. But that path, if you're watching my finger right now, it doesn't go from zip to zip. It doesn't go from northwest to southeast, or no, southeast to northwest. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And then at the end of it, sort of like, well, that was an interesting ride. But I always look at the milestones as helping us know that it's going to be up and down. And the way I look at it is, if suppose you want to build a business, or suppose you want to start an organization, or maybe you want to be somewhere else larger in your own business, or whatever you do. It's like driving your car from LA to New York. That is northeast. I've got my head right. Okay, that's northeast.
Yes.
And it's never going to be straight. It's never going to be as the crow flies. It's going to be, well, you might take Highway 20. You might take 30. There's a whole lot of ways to get there. But the point is, keep going northeast. And don't worry about the downsides that are going to happen anyway. And people that get kind of rigid about it and, it's got to be this way, they're not looking at the milestones. The milestones will say, well, you learned a lesson here. That sucked. Or it'll be, hey, this was great. So pay attention to the big picture and the milestones will help you.
I think about a road trip like that. You'll go through some really scenic
You would be
areas.
a lot of fun on a road trip, by the way.
John, we could do this. We are going to go on a Townsend Institute road trip. Yeah. Because there's scenic places like Kansas that people would want to stop in. And then, so.
Okay. We'll get some Chevy Chase movies out and we'll kind of see how that happens.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let me know your end destination and I'll
You're going too, Ashlie.
I'll meet you there.
Oh, we'll get a Townsend bus. This would be great.
Take this show on the road. There we go. Another interesting thing when you talk about the milestones too is I think just understanding that everybody's are so different, right? And come at different times and at different paces. And I think that's an important lesson for listeners. I think this relates back to the model. This was something that just kind of came to mind when we think about, adulthood and just those levels of maturity that come with different milestones.
Oh, you mean the growth model of attachment, separation, integration, adulthood. And it's the fourth and most advanced stage, right?
The fourth and most advanced stage, right? When I think about the milestones I have for my 2-year-old, they're very different than those I have for my 6-year-old, and then those that I have for myself, right? Yeah. But all of them are part of that journey and that trajectory. So great lessons to be learned there. Well, as we kind of look forward, forward to perhaps maybe what the second year of TIPS has in store for us and our listeners, can you share with all of us what you've been working on that's hopefully going to benefit not just our podcast listeners, but our students, maybe future students of the Townsend Institute at Concordia?
Sure. I'm ensconced. That's a strange word. I'm ensconced, but I kind of am. I'm immersed. I'm obliterated in
I like
writing.
ensconced. That's
Okay,
good.
That's
I'll
highly
put-
academic. I mean, that's the big John. I like
Okay.
it.
I'm writing a textbook on counseling to train counselors from a biblical and scientific level on how to do good counseling based on, all the books and all the papers and all the research. And the title is going to be hopefully transformation, how people change, grow, and heal. And it's going to be for people who want to be a counselor or people who are just thoughtful listeners and just like to think about growth areas. And because a lot of my readers just like growth, they're not in the field, they just enjoy this stuff. And then people who will be coaches or leaders to help people know how to take somebody from the beginning of their time in counseling to the end. And it's in 3 sections. It's theory, and then it's diagnosis, and then it's treatment. And theory is basically, it'd be like if you had if you were in med school at Johns Hopkins and you're a cardiology student, you would take theory of the heart. And theory would be, what is the structure of the heart? What's the purpose? How is it made? Diagnosis would be, here's the different heart diseases that occur. And then treatment would be, what do you do? It's the same thing in counseling. And so the first part, theory, is about God and about how God designed us a certain way to love and to be in self-control and to never judge, but live an experience and let God be the judge and to obey his rules. And then we turned that upside down. We decided to be God and went upside down and all this. And then therefore, the dysfunction that came from us not living in the roles that he made, it would have been a great life, but then we didn't. That turned into what we would call psychopathology, which is depression, anxiety, addictions, bad relationships, not knowing where my job should be, and feeling not adult. And so that's the theory part, to say this all comes from the Bible and it's just what happened, and the science backs all that up. And the second part of diagnosis is, okay, person comes to you and they're hurting, they're depressed or traumatized, or their relationships are falling apart, they got an addicted son or daughter, whatever. The problem is never the problem. The problem is a symptom of something else deeper inside them, having to do with what we would call at the Institute a character issue. Are they disconnected and can't trust? Or do they not have a voice and they can't say boundaries because they're afraid to make people mad? Or do they judge themselves unmercifully and live in perfectionism, and perfectionism is a jail? Or do they don't feel like an adult? They feel like a little kid not knowing if they're good enough or not. And so people have those issues and they express themselves in depression, anxiety, addiction, relationship problems, and career problems. So the the pain that brings the client in is not what you solve. You don't treat a depression. You treat a person that's depressed. You don't treat anxiety. You treat a person who's anxious. And when you do that, you go down to those inner levels of a person and you help them to grow, heal, have different relational experiences, find some truth. And then we go to technique. And technique is a ton of things you can do to make that happen. I'm going to help the counselor to understand the x-ray of what's going on underneath the hood, underneath the pain, and here's what you can do about it. So that's where I'm spending my time these days, and we're hoping it'll be helpful, certainly for Townsend Institute, because we love our students and the ones that are studying about ways to help people, coaching, counseling, even leadership. We hope it'll be good for them.
What do you think people get stuck on? Which area? I mean, you talk about the theory, the diagnosis, the treatment. Where's usually people get
You mean
stuck
in
on?
their growth or in reading my book? There's two different answers.
Well, they'll never get stuck reading your
Yeah.
book, but
Might be a little technical though. So you mean in the growth process when they're
in
trying
the
to be a
growth
better
pro-
person and improve?
hmm
Can I say 2 things or just do I have to have one?
Oh, no,
Like
no,
gun to my head, 1 thing or 2?
You know what? We'll give you 2 today because this is a
Okay.
special anniversary edition. You get 2.
Okay. I think 1 is not having community around them. We're built for relationship. All the way from Genesis 2, it's not good that we be alone. That's not a marriage passage. That is a relationship passage. And so people try to go along, gut it out, talk to themselves, think harder, be more disciplined. And that's great. but we're built for community. They are our fuel. They are our nutrients. And so people that don't have a lot of trust relationships, people that are safe for them, it will slow down their progress. And when they begin to find some people that they can open to, a lot of times it's a counselor or a coach or a leader that will accelerate it. And the next one is what I basically just call hunger. You know, when Jesus was teaching us the Beatitudes in Matthew 5, he said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, they shall be filled." Some people are really not hungry for this. They don't want to feel bad, but they don't want to look inside. Just, tell me how to talk nice to myself or whatever, because I don't want to look at where the pain is or the injury is inside. And they'll get better temporarily, but they don't get to be transformed. But there are people who say, I'm hungry for whatever I've got to go through to be a better person and to break through this stuff. If you're hungry for growth, just like you're hungry for righteousness, and they're very similar, it'll accelerate it. But the two stuck parts I've noticed are the motivation, is it inside or outside, and the isolation. Those are the two things. When you solve those, it really takes off, Gilbert.
Yeah, that would make a big difference, right?
It's also true, by the way, in organizations. If I've got a leader listening to us, think about your team, your strategic team, your executive team. The ones that don't connect very well in a, Patrick Lencioni 5 dysfunctions way, and they don't trust each other, bottom part of his pyramid, they're not gonna make great decisions. And also, if they're just there for a comp, and comp's important, your paycheck's important, insurance is important, benefits are important. But if that's all they're there for, and their motivation isn't, I want to make something big, I want to do something significant, it'll tank too. So it happens both in individuals and in organizations, I believe.
That's interesting. It's all connected. So
All connected.
yeah. And so you've been doing a lot of research, a lot of things going on here. What are some current trends that you have really caught your attention recently, and why are they?
Well, it's a new and an old thing. It's a trend, but what I am really struck with it, the more I research the brain functioning and what to do about helping people be better, is the bottom line is always going to be, we all need a certain amount of grace. You can't grow without it, without knowing that even if I'm wrong, that people are for me and they'll never judge me. There's got to be those people. We can't function without grace. Otherwise, we just feel judged. But you can't do it with grace alone. There's a lot of people who have grace alone, and they're very loved, they're very attached, they're very safe, and they're just still a mess. They don't make good decisions, and they make awful decisions and pick the wrong people, and they pick the wrong jobs, and they don't have any structure, but they're very well loved. And that's not enough. The way that God created the universe, the second part is truth. And truth has to do with facts and structure and research and feedback. It's like successful people have the grace because that's the heart. You've got to have the heart inside. You've got to have people giving it to you and you giving it back. You got to be vulnerable. You got to be around vulnerable people. But truth is the skeleton that protects the organs. It's the skeletal system that keeps that from getting injured. And you've got to have that structure around it. So I always tell somebody, whether it's a billion-dollar corporation I'm working with or somebody, a missionary I'm working with, when I'm evaluating the struggle, it's always, where are they in grace? Are they in deficit, or do they have enough of that around them? And where are they in truth and structure? And you can generally find out what's going on. It's sort of like, that's what it said in John 1 when John the writer said Jesus came full of grace and truth. If you look around for relationships and support over here, and you look around for truth and feedback and structure here, you'll find out where the issue is. It's like a primary way to look at making things better.
That's great. And like you said, it's also interconnected, right? We talk a lot here on our institute about the 3 C's: competence, character, and connection. And that's key, right? Competence is very common that you're going to get in a program of higher education. But
Tools.
it's those other pieces.
We'll give you the competence because we'll give you a ton of tools, right?
Absolutely. That's important, but it's the connection piece, the community, and that character growth as well that really helps it come full circle. We are nearing the end of our time together of our 1-year anniversary episode. And of course, we have to get your takeaway tip. What tip do you have for our listeners today? Or maybe a tip for Gilbert and I as well. We always love your tips also.
Well, since you guys are totally actualized, I just don't want to even mess with that one,
Oh, no.
How do you
Wow.
tell people that live on the mountain how to get to a better mountain?
Oh, goodness.
I would return to your topic of milestones. I would tell people in your busy life and digital assaults all over the place. And I'm a digital person, but I know I get assaulted too. So that you're always living this ADD life. Take a little bit of control of your time today. And I don't know, for maybe once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once in the evening, take that picture using your eyes of something significant, of important, and say to yourself, this is meaningful. You have to say this to yourself because your brain's going to go, that plus 14 more Instagrams. You have to kind of like say, this is special. This is a big deal. And if you do that today, as you're listening to our podcast, see what you think of it tomorrow. I bet it won't be, well, yesterday was a blur. I bet it'll be, oh, those 3 things were meaningful to me. I talked to my kid, or I did really well on something, or I had a real struggle and I learned from it. So that's my little tip. It's a 3-second thing today. 3 times 3, morning, afternoon, and evening.
That's great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for all you've contributed to our first year of the podcast, just all the insight that you've provided to us and to our listeners. We're excited to see where year 2 takes us. It sounds like Kansas, here we come.
That's right. Sophomore year, headed to Kansas.
Thanks, guys, and thanks just for leading this. It's just a wonderful instrument for growth for people. If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University Irvine. With programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.